Get your hands where I can see them. The voice cuts through the night like a gunshot. Jamal stops dead, his pulse hammering in his ears. His hands shoot up instinctively. A second ago, he was just another teenager walking home. Now, he's a suspect, his skin the only evidence against him. Officer Monroe's glare is sharp, his hand resting on the holster. "What are you doing around here?" Jamal swallows hard. I live 2 blocks away, just heading home." "You match the description." Monroe steps closer, his grip tightening on his belt. Jamal's breath comes in shallow gulps. "I didn't do anything." Monroe's lip curls. "Turn around, now." The street is silent, the air heavy. Jamal glances around, searching for a familiar face. Someone. Anyone. But the only thing staring back at him is the dark, empty road. Then, rough hands shove him forward. His chest smashes against the pavement, his cheek scraping the rough asphalt. The burn of the ground is nothing compared to the weight pressing down on him. "Stay down," Monroe barks, his knee digging into Jamal's back. Jamal gasps, his ribs screaming. "I can't breathe." "Should have thought about that before acting suspicious," Monroe mutters. Distant voices murmur. The world tilts, blurry figures shifting at the edges of his vision. A few feet away, a sneaker scuffs the ground, hesitant, unsure. No one moves to stop it. No one dares. The pressure increases. The world narrows to pain and helplessness. Jamal strains against the cuffs, his voice hoarse. "I was just walking home," Monroe scoffs. "You fit the description." Jamal turns his head as much as he can. "What description?" His voice cracks. Anger, fear, disbelief all crashing together. Monroe yanks him up just enough for their eyes to meet. "The kind that gets you in trouble." Jamal's stomach tightens. He's seen this before. On the news, in viral videos, the names, the headlines. But this isn't a video, it's him. And no one ever hears the full story. The street is no longer empty. A crowd has gathered, some whispering, others watching in uneasy silence. A woman clutches her purse. "This isn't right," she murmurs, but her feet remain planted. A teenager holds up his phone, recording. No words, just the quiet hum of the camera lens capturing every second. Jamal meets his gaze. He wants to believe it matters, that someone will speak up. But will they? Or will he become just another video, shared, debated, then forgotten? Monroe leans in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You people never learn, do you?" Jamal stiffens. The words cut deeper than any handcuffs ever could. Monroe smirks. "Always think you can walk where you don't belong. Talk back like you got power, but we both know how this ends, don't we?" Jamal clenches his jaw, refusing to give him the satisfaction of fear, but his heart pounds, a deep, sickening rhythm. This isn't just an arrest, it's a lesson, a warning. A dozen lenses stare back at him, their cold, unblinking eyes capturing every detail. The cuffs, the tension, the weight of a moment that might define his future. Jamal doesn't know if they will save him, or just bear witness to the next name in a long, tragic list. Monroe chuckles, shaking his head. "Wait till your parents see this." Jamal's stomach twists. His parents, his little sister. What will they think when they see him like this? The shame, the helplessness, the fear. He isn't sure which hurts worse. The screen fades to black. Jamal's mother, Lisa, tightened her grip on his wrist, her voice firm. "Stay out of trouble, son. Keep your head down. Make it home safe." Jamal sighed. "Mom, I don't go looking for trouble." She cupped his face, her eyes filled with both love and fear. "I know, but sometimes trouble finds you." He nodded, not wanting to argue. He'd heard the stories. Kids like him stopped for no reason, questioned just for existing. He wasn't naive, but still, he refused to live in fear. As he grabbed his backpack, Lisa exhaled. "Just be careful, Jamal." "I will, Mom." Jamal wasn't like most kids in the neighborhood. He had a plan, a purpose. Law school, that was the goal. Not just to escape, but to fight back against the injustice that surrounded him. In class, he debated fiercely, his voice unwavering. The law should protect everyone, but reality, it doesn't. His teacher, Mr. Gaines, smiled. Sounds like we've got a future attorney here. That was the dream. To stand in a courtroom and demand justice for people like his father, gone too soon, another name in a system that never cared. He wouldn't let that be his fate. He couldn't. In his neighborhood, Jamal had respect. He was the kid with a future, the one parents pointed to when they told their children to aim higher. But no amount of respect shielded him from the weight of a badge. Whenever a squad car rolled by, conversations died. Hands tensed, eyes averted. Jamal felt it too. That silent understanding. Being smart, being ambitious. None of it mattered if the wrong cop decided today was your day. Officer Bradley Monroe thrived on fear. He wasn't just another cop. He was a predator in uniform, hunting for kids like Jamal. Looking suspicious, he'd say, smirking as he emptied their pockets, their dignity stripped alongside their belongings. Nobody fought back. Complaints disappeared. Parents whispered warnings, but warnings didn't stop Monroe. He watched Jamal, knowing the boy thought he was untouchable. But Monroe had a lesson to teach. Ambition wouldn't save him. Books wouldn't protect him. Jamal Carter would learn the truth. All it took was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The distant hum of a car engine, tires screeching against asphalt. Jamal turned and froze. The black and white patrol car skidded to a stop, red and blue flashing against the night. His stomach twisted. He didn't need to see the badge to know who it was. A door slammed. Heavy boots on pavement. A voice dripping with authority and something darker. "Well, well," Monroe drawled. "Look what we have here." Jamal's pulse thundered in his ears. Trouble had found him. Jamal barely has time to react before Officer Monroe's voice cuts through the air. "You, hands where I can see them." Confusion flickers across Jamal's face. "What's going on?" Monroe steps forward, his stance rigid. "You match the description of a suspect we're looking for. Don't make me repeat myself." Jamal swallows hard. He's heard these words before, on the news, from friends, from neighbors. He knows what they mean. "I was just heading home," he says evenly, careful not to let his voice shake. Monroe's eyes narrow. "That so?" His hand hovers over his holster. "Let's find out." Jamal exhales slowly. "Can I ask what I'm being accused of?" Monroe's jaw tightens. "Oh, we got a real smart one here." "I just want to understand," Jamal replies, keeping his voice measured. The officer scoffs. "I don't owe you an explanation." His grip tightens on his belt, eyes scanning the crowd that's beginning to form. "Last chance. Don't test me." Jamal lifts his hand slightly higher. He's seen this go wrong before. One wrong move, one wrong word, and things spiral. "I'm not resisting," he says, voice calm despite the storm brewing in his chest. "Good," Monroe sneers. "Then this'll be quick." Monroe grabs Jamal's arm and spins him around. "Spread your legs," he orders, shoving him toward the nearest wall. Jamal clenches his jaw as the officer's hands roughly pat him down, pulling at his pockets, knocking his phone to the ground. Every movement is exaggerated. A performance meant for the watching eyes. "What are you doing?" Jamal protests, heat rushing to his face. Monroe presses his hand against Jamal's back, keeping him in place. "Making sure you don't have anything you shouldn't," he mutters, loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. "You wouldn't be nervous if you had nothing to hide." A few onlookers whisper amongst themselves. A woman shakes her head. A man pulls out his phone, but no one moves to stop it. "He didn't do anything," a voice calls from the crowd. Monroe ignores it, tightening his grip on Jamal's wrist. "You're hurting him," another voice shouts. Still, others stay silent, their eyes darting away, feet shuffling uncomfortably. It's easier not to get involved, easier to convince themselves that there's more to the story. A mother pulls her child closer. A man sighs and turns away. and Jamal stands there, heart pounding, caught between their stares and Monroe's authority. Jamal tries again. "Sir, I don't have anything." A sudden, forceful yank of his arms cuts him off. Monroe's grip is unforgiving. "Stop talking," the officer hisses. Jamal swallows his words. Every movement is a reminder. He has no control here, no voice, no way out. Monroe's smirk is slight, but it's there, a silent declaration of dominance. Jamal exhales shakily. He isn't resisting. He's just existing. And right now, that's enough to warrant this treatment. A phone screen glows in the dimming light. An older black man stands near the back of the crowd, his hand steady as he records. His eyes meet Jamal's for a brief moment. There's no pity in them, no helplessness, just understanding. Jamal doesn't know if it's enough, if a camera will make a difference, if anyone will care. But the lens keeps rolling. Monroe's voice boomed through the air. "Get on the ground! Now!" Before Jamal could react, a rough shove sent him crashing onto the pavement. His hands barely broke the fall, pain shooting up his arms. Gravel dug into his palms, his breath knocked from his chest. "Stop resisting," Monroe barked, though Jamal had done nothing. The officer's knee pressed into his back, pinning him down as the weight of injustice settled on his shoulders. A murmur of shock spread through the onlookers. Someone gasped. A woman's voice cracked with urgency. "He didn't do anything." But Monroe didn't care. His voice rang louder than the truth. Suspect resisted arrest. Bystanders stood frozen, their gazes bouncing between each other. Some held their phones, hesitant, uncertain. "Somebody do something," a young man called out, but no one moved. Fear kept them locked in place. Fear of becoming the next target. A mother clutched her child's hand tighter. An older man shook his head in silent despair. They had seen this before. Monroe's grip on Jamal tightened. "You people never learn." The crowd whispered, but whispers changed nothing. The sound of another police vehicle pulling up stirred a flicker of hope in Jamal's chest. Officer Reyes stepped out. Maybe, just maybe, someone would put an end to this. But instead of intervention, Reyes nodded at Monroe. "What's the charge?" Monroe smirked. "Assaulting an officer." Jamal's eyes widened. "That's a lie, I didn't." Reyes cut him off, shaking his head. "Don't make this harder, kid." Any hope Jamal had was crushed. This wasn't justice. This was a script they had played out before, and he knew exactly how it ended. Cold metal snapped around his wrists. The cuffs bit into his skin, the final insult in Monroe's twisted power play. "I know your type," Monroe said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Think you're better than the rest? You're not." Jamal clenched his jaw. He wouldn't give Monroe the satisfaction of fear. "I did nothing wrong," he said, voice steady. Monroe's grip tightened as he shoved Jamal forward. "And yet, here you are." The onlookers watched in silence, the weight of injustice pressing down on them all. Jamal searched the crowd, desperate for a familiar face, a kind word, a sign that someone still believed in fairness. But he found only averted eyes, bowed heads, quiet shame. They wanted to help. But fear was louder than their conscience. He felt the reality settle in his chest like a stone. It wasn't just Monroe's hands that held him down. It was a system, a history, an unspoken rule that some people's voices simply didn't matter. Monroe crouched beside him, voice low enough for only Jamal to hear. "Forget college, forget law school, you're done." Jamal didn't blink. He wouldn't let Monroe see him break, but deep inside, his dreams trembled. The back of the squad car swallowed him whole. The doors slammed, sealing his fate, for now. But outside, amidst the murmuring crowd, one man stood still, his phone held steady. He had captured it all, and the world was about to see. The footage spread faster than anyone could have predicted. A shaky but clear video of Monroe slamming Jamal to the pavement, shouting fabricated charges, his smirk of authority turning into the face of a national controversy. Within hours, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok exploded. Hashtags trended. #, Justice for Jamal. #, End Police Brutality. #, We See You. News anchors dissected every frame. Legal analysts debated implications, and public outrage grew. Celebrities reposted the clip, demanding accountability. Protesters flooded the precinct where Jamal remained behind bars, their voices a storm Monroe never anticipated. Inside a dimly lit living room, Lisa Carter, Jamal's sister, stared at her phone, watching the chaos unfold. A mixture of fear and hope swirled in her chest. The world saw. But would it be enough? Her phone buzzed. Another notification, another message of support, but then an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Lisa Carter?" The voice was calm, professional. "Yes? My name is Daniel Reynolds. I'm an attorney, and I believe we have a case." Lisa's heart pounded. "A lawyer?" "Pro bono," Daniel confirmed. "I saw the video. This isn't just misconduct, it's a violation of civil rights." Lisa exhaled sharply. "You really think we can win?" A pause, then firm resolve. "We don't just win cases like this, we make history." Lisa bit her lip, overwhelmed. So many had spoken up, but was anyone really willing to fight? She glanced at the screen. Jamal's name was everywhere. "Why are you helping?" she finally asked. Daniel hesitated, then said, "Because this is personal." Lisa frowned. "Personal? I'll explain soon. Just know, I won't let this go." The line went dead, but the fight was only beginning. Lisa clutched her phone, waiting anxiously. An hour later, a black sedan pulled up. A tall man in a crisp suit stepped out. Daniel Reynolds. "Let's talk," he said, extending a hand. They sat at the kitchen table, tension thick in the air. "I should have told you earlier," he admitted. "My father is Judge Marcus Reynolds." Lisa stiffened. "A judge?" Daniel nodded. "One with influence and connections. If we do this right, we can bring down more than just one corrupt officer." Lisa's mind raced. "You're saying this could be bigger?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Much bigger. Monroe isn't an isolated problem. He's a symptom of something deeper." Lisa inhaled sharply. This wasn't just about Jamal anymore, it was about something far greater. Daniel leaned forward, eyes burning with conviction. "We need to go after the entire system that enables officers like Monroe." Lisa's hands trembled. "That sounds dangerous." "It is." He didn't sugarcoat it. "But change doesn't come easy. This case could set a precedent, make sure no one else suffers like Jamal." Lisa met his gaze, feeling the weight of the moment. She thought of Jamal, locked away, and the thousands of voices demanding justice. A deep breath, then a nod. "Let's fight." The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Jamal sat upright, his expression calm but resolute. His lawyer, Michael Reynolds, whispered, "No matter what, stay composed. The truth is on our side." The heavy doors swung open. Officer Monroe strutted in, his smirk unwavering. Confidence dripped from his every move, until his gaze landed on the judge. The color drained from his face. Judge Marcus Reynolds, renowned for his unwavering stance on justice, settled into his seat. His eyes locked onto Monroe, and for a split second something flickered. Recognition. "We will now proceed," the judge's voice echoed. "The case against Officer Monroe for excessive force and false charges. Let's begin." Monroe adjusted his tie, forcing a grin. "This is a misunderstanding, Your Honor. I followed protocol." Jamal clenched his fists under the table. The lies continued, but not for long. Judge Reynolds leaned forward, his fingers interlaced. "Officer Monroe, do you know why you're here?" Monroe chuckled nervously. "A simple misinterpretation, sir." "Misinterpretation?" The judge's brow lifted. "We'll see. Proceed." Lisa Carter, Jamal's mother, watched anxiously. Every second felt like an eternity. "Let's review the evidence," Reynolds said, motioning to the prosecution. Monroe's fingers tapped against the table, a subtle sign of unease. The walls around him were closing in. The screen flickered to life. Silence blanketed the courtroom as the viral footage played. Jamal's body slammed onto the pavement. Monroe's voice rang out, resisting arrest. The video's clarity was damning. Jamal lay motionless, his hands already behind his back, yet Monroe drove his knee into his spine. Gasps erupted. Lisa closed her eyes, pained by the memory. Monroe shifted in his seat, his arrogance crumbling. That video, it's taken out of context. Michael leaned forward. Context? The entire world saw this. The only context here is abuse of power. Judge Reynolds' gaze hardened. Let's get to the heart of this. Officer Monroe, answer me clearly. Reynolds exhaled sharply, fixing Monroe with an unwavering stare. Was Jamal a threat to you? Monroe hesitated. He was being uncooperative. Uncooperative? Michael interjected. Did he raise a hand? Make a move? Did he even speak? The officer licked his lips. He was looking at me, challenging my authority. Looking at you? The judge's voice cut like a blade. Officer Monroe, this court values facts over feelings. The courtroom buzzed. Monroe's shoulders sagged. His defense was slipping away. Judge Reynolds straightened. This court finds Officer Monroe's actions warrant an internal investigation. Effective immediately, he is suspended without pay. The air shifted. Lisa clutched Jamal's hand. Furthermore, Reynolds continued, Jamal Carter's record is expunged. The charges were baseless. Justice must be restored. Monroe's mouth opened, but no words came. His power was gone. Outside the courthouse, the crowd waited. When Jamal stepped out, a cheer erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters scrambled. Lisa squeezed his hand. You did it. Michael patted Jamal's shoulder. This isn't just about you anymore. This is bigger. Jamal nodded. We keep fighting. Hope ignited in the crowd. Justice had spoken, but the movement was just beginning. Imagine walking down the street, minding your business, then suddenly, flashing lights, a voice demanding you stop. You comply, yet rough hands shove you against a car, accused, judged, and treated as a threat without cause. What would you do if you were in Jamal's shoes? Drop your thoughts below. Racism isn't just history, it's reality. Have you ever faced discrimination or witnessed injustice firsthand? Your voice matters. Share your experiences in the comments. Let's create a space where stories are heard and voices aren't silenced, because change begins when we speak up. One video isn't enough. This is bigger than Jamal. How can we challenge these injustices? Awareness is only the first step. Real change comes from action. Keep the conversation alive. Talk about it. Ask questions and demand better. Because when we stop talking, we stop progressing. Jamal's story is one of many, and they need to be told. If you believe in shedding light on these realities, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More stories are coming. More voices need to be heard. Will you be part of the movement?